Are you happy in your fame?
Yeah, I am pretty happy in my fame. I mean, I cashed that check a long time ago. So I've worked to embrace it and say, well, let me understand what my relationship is with it, because I don't want to fight against it. Again, if I really want to fight against it, there are places on the globe I could move. I know some places in Northwest Africa where nobody would know my name nor give a damn. So I'm not going to really stay here and kind of about it. So relationship-wise is instead of probably in my life now, I look at it less like, oh, I'm this guy and I'm famous. I'm like, no, you know what? I'm McConaughey. I happen to be a celebrity. I'm also an actor. I'm also a father. I am also this. And throw them all in the pot and say it's part of the deal.
And you accept all the good and bad that goes with that, right?
It's big. I mean, it's going to be much more good than bad. It has its annoyances, sure, but...
So again, I just love this idea of cashing that check. He says, this is what a successful career in acting means. This is what fame means. Given the full context, Matthew must ask himself, is fame good for me or bad for me? Do I want it and everything it entails, even all the trade-offs? You do? Well then, cash that check. And this is what it means, in my view, to have integrity. He doesn't attempt to separate some of his choices today with who he is tomorrow. That's hedonism, not self-interest. Each of us is an integrated being, and we must preserve that integrity. We must think, what choices am I going to make that comprise who I am? Are they consistent with my other values and the whole of who I propose to be? Given all that comes with the deal, are they good for me or bad for me? After clear, careful, rational consideration of what this means for my life, in the full context, do I want it? Yes? Then cash it. And then don't talk about it's bad for me later, right? And I'm going to give you a few examples. So let's consider. Do I want to be a parent? In what ways will this enrich my life? Right? What comes as part of the deal? I understand being a parent is not all just sunshine and lollipops, right? There's ups and downs. But on the whole, do you want it? Is it good for you or bad for you in your life to have kids in your life? If so, cash it. If not, don't cash that check. So how about another? Should I take this job? How will it enrich my life? Will I be challenged intellectually? Will I be compensated satisfactorily? Will I, do I get paid enough? Will I be fulfilled creatively, etc.? And what am I giving up as part of the deal? What are the trade-offs to taking this job as opposed to this one? So given the full context, do I want to take this job? Is it good for my life? Cash it. Cash that check. Thank you, Matthew, for this great expression, by the way. How about this marriage? And this is the one I used on Happy Wife, Happy Life last week, if you want to listen to it, right? But it was basically the same thing. When I considered marrying my wife, I thought, how will this enrich my life? What parts of my life will change as part of the deal, right? I said last week that I didn't imagine that I was just going to maintain everything I have in my life and then just add that without any trade-offs, right? I understand. So on the whole, is it better to be married or better to be single? And on the whole, I definitely thought it's better to have this person in my life. So I cashed that check. Now, the final illustration I'll give on this point is from Ben Shapiro when he appeared on the Rubin Report a couple years ago. That's Dave Rubin's show. And I'll just play the clip. Let's go.
I think that on capitalism, there's very few expositors of capitalism who I think are better than Ayn Rand. As far as her life philosophy and her relationship philosophy, I think that's pretty garbage. I don't think objectivism applies in personal relationships. Now, the way that a lot of objectivists get around the idea that you're going to abandon your wife and children because there's a hot chick at the bar, because objectivists...
Well, they would say that's not rational self-interest, right?
Right. So they'll redefine the terminology, right? They'll say that you're not making a sacrifice for your wife and children. You've made a decision that it makes you happier to be with your wife and children, and the rational person would make that decision that it's better to be with your wife and children. A lot of 40-year-old men driving Corvettes would disagree, right? So I really don't think that's correct.
I wonder if they disagree or they just have a moment of stupidity.
I mean, maybe, but it's the president's been married 3 times, each time to a younger, hotter model. So it's I think that I have less faith in human nature than to believe that the reason I stick with my wife and kids is because it always makes me happy. There's plenty of times when I'm with a screaming child in the middle of the night when what would best serve my interests is to thrust the child upon my wife and go drinking.
So this is just really disappointing and tedious, frankly. Coming from a brilliant guy like Ben Shapiro who should know better, he's just erecting this classic straw man, and I don't see how he can't understand this idea. Nobody's saying that marriage means you're just happy all the time. When I referred to marital bliss last week on the show, I didn't mean that my wife and I are just floating around every day in this euphoria. I mean, obviously there's ups and downs, there's sober moments, But on the whole, my life is just much better, right? Happiness doesn't mean you're just up and down at every moment. Same with parental bliss. It's the same thing. It doesn't mean that you just get joy and wonder from your kids all the time. Ask any parent, right? But on the whole, again, having a kid is good for your life versus not. And if it's not, well, you should really think carefully of whether you want to be a parent. And it's the same thing when I talk about on the show that I'm happy or that I'm living a flourishing life. It's not that I just go skipping around all day, singing, whistling like a lunatic or something. Although my wife and friends would probably be like, yeah, you do. But that's not true. But I guess I am pretty enthusiastic and buoyant all the time. But anyway, but it's not true. Obviously, I have ups and downs and again, sober moments in my life. And that's not what happiness means. Happiness is, as Ayn Rand says, a state of non-contradictory joy. It's a contented state of health, prosperity, and happiness, right? According to human flourishing definition, or eudaimonia. And I don't get how Ben Shapiro does not get this. I mean, let's just put ourselves in that position. So we go to the bar, and there's the hot chick at the bar, and she's looking at you, and it's basically you have a shot. Now, what do? Now, just imagine. We're rational, as I said. We can project the future. So let's imagine the scenario. You go for it. Now, really, project that future. Is it a good future? Right? You go home that night or the next day, say, right? How does that work? How do you even, what will this mean to me on that day? And all the days I must live for the rest of my life, the days I cannot separate from this immediate moment and that I must integrate into the whole of my life and of who I am. Can I look at my wife ever again? Can I bear thinking about what it will mean to her? Is it possible to have a happy marriage henceforth? And what if I had children? I don't, but what if I did have children? How will this affect them? Right? How could I continue to look them in the eyes straight and speak to them of integrity and virtue for the rest of my life? Can I claim any credibility to anyone whatsoever in the future? Can I stand to look at myself in the mirror ever again if I did that? Cash that check if you dare. But don't call yourself selfish. Don't accuse yourself of such a thing as being selfish, right? You'll have chosen to annihilate supremely cherished values, everything in your life, in one single hedonistic impulse. So whatever pleasure you get from like that lustful night with the hot chick or whatever you think it is, separated and in contradiction to the whole of your life and values, it's your integrity which is sacrificed most irrevocably. This disintegrated state makes self-esteem impossible, and this is what it means, people, to be unable to look oneself in the mirror. And then I think it's grotesque and preposterous to equate such pleasures as we might have enjoyed with that exalted state of non-contradictory joy, which I call the crown of integrated virtue. So seriously, with the ability to project that miserable future, understanding all that comes with the deal, taking that deal is bad for you. It is the opposite of selfish. It is self-destructive. Like, you don't get that? Give me a break. How can you not get that?
Hey, hop in, man.
Hey, man, whose car?
You know Wooderson?
Oh.
How's it going, man?
Hey. Pretty good. How's it going with you?
Say, man, you got an ego?
No, not on me, man.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Mr. Brightside, your time out to refresh, refuel, and refocus your mind and energy toward building an optimistic framework for flourishing. Life is good. It's up to you to choose the bright side.